The other thing is forfeiture of individual responsibility over government control. With everything becoming regulated and codified, more and more aspects of your life are going to be disciplined, or at least governed and regulated by the government. You also see what I call fashionable brainwashings. We already see this now, the going green fad. And I'm not talking the kids being brainwashed in K through college education. That's already happening. That will continue to happen. But where people will engage in the emperor has no clothes mentality. Corporations and adults will either lack independent critical thinking or completely lack a spine. And you see this with corporations just rolling over on their backs like puppies to go green. All right? Everything's green. Pepsi's green. We're going to go green. All right? British Petroleum's green. All right? And nothing more than marketing. Where still is you're going to see adults who should be the front line of defense against this tyranny, this brainwashing against the children. They will join it because they'll seem fashionable. The middle-aged woman carrying her Whole Foods bag, going to Whole Foods, 6 or 7 times, spending a lot more gas than she would have if she just had an SUV and had gotten the paper and the plastic, but she'll feel good about it. Not because she actually believes in going green, but because it's for her own sake, because people will find it fashionable. All of this regulation, all of this progressive, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, oh, that's politically incorrect, oh, you must go green, is going to just crush creativity and innovation. In other words, your renegades, mavericks, and entrepreneurs, they're going to go extinct. Not that they're going to die out, they're just not going to participate anymore. You're not going to have a Howard Hughes, you're not going to have Andrew Carnegie, you're not going to have a Rockefeller, you're not going to have Bill Gates, and you're not going to have Tony Stark. They're going to decide to instead rather go galt and go fishing simply because they'll look at the onerous environmental or legal or employment legislation and regulation and say, you know, it ain't going to work. Or frankly, they'll just go overseas. This you can already see now. Because of this wave of crusaderism, because of the wave of crusades and causes, and you should be noble, and you should be this, and if you're not that, well then you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a misogynist, whatever else have you. It is putting an emphasis on being nice more important than being right. And you can see this in politics where politicians have to be nice instead of being right. Instead of being truthful and telling their population how the real world works, they're going to lie to them and tell them what they want to hear. But not just in government, but more so in the private sector. The being nice over being right has absolutely crippled the private sector. You no longer can speak freely, not because the private sector isn't free, but because the mentality, the brainwashing that has already occurred, and being politically correct and avoiding lawsuits, and let's do that, oh, wouldn't it look nice if we did this and went green, and we donated some money here and donated some money, then we look at our marketing, we're looking really good. That has crushed any kind of ability to speak freely and bluntly about anything that may be going on in the corporation. For example, I was a credit analyst over in various different banks, tried to say we shouldn't make these loans in real estate. And the pure hell I received for daring to point out that a lot of these people couldn't pay back their loans or shouldn't have been lent the money in the first place, what absolutely went against the grain. Right? Truth is no longer going to be appreciated, it's going to be being politically correct. It will corrupt the private and the public sectors. Now, as we become politically correct more and more, and we have to abide by all these crusades, and crusaderism inevitably permeates every aspect of society, economic growth will again slow. And I showed you this chart before. However, what I also include now in this chart is not just the 20-year average growth rate of GDP, but the standard deviation, 20-year average standard deviation of economic growth. This shows you that what we're essentially doing is trading growth for stability. And the reason why is that well, in part because of onerous regulation, government having a larger percentage of the economy, but again, this mentality where we're allowing crusaders and crusaderism to have an effect on our mentality, where, oh, it's too risky, where we have this huge aversion to risk. And this will unfortunately result in a mentality of safety at all costs. You see this with people with their children. It doesn't matter how much it actually impairs the child. We need safety at all costs. The kid can't go out of the house. We need safety at the schools. We need this. We need that. We need safety at work. We have onerous safety, safety, safety. Well, the problem with safety is not only does it come at a cost of economic growth, it also comes at a risk of innovation, and it also opens the door for government control. Right? Safety is the perfect crusading vehicle by which the government could come in, and as long as it's safety, well, then it's noble and just. So unfortunately, you will see that occurring as we're going down the road. Part 5, what can be done? Well, it depends. If you insist on what I call the path of most resistance, you can still think there's hope. There are several things that you can do. One, demand term limits, because the majority of, or at least the plurality of crusaders inevitably go into politics. If you kill the possibility that there's any chance to have lifelong employment in politics, you'll make that segment, that vital part of the economy, immune to crusaders. 2, you eliminate worthless degrees. Not that you don't allow business or colleges to offer liberal arts or sociology or what have you, but you stop the funding. If you go to get your degree in communications, the state is not going to subsidize you. Right? Mandate constitutional education for K through 12 so that the kids know what the Constitution is and what their rights are. 2, mandate financial and economic education, non-biased, for personal financial management for kids so that they don't make the mistakes my generation, the previous generation, the current generation have made. Eliminate government funding for any nonprofit organization. The government should not be in the business of any kind of charity or stuff like that. It should be at the charity, at the kindness of private donors who actually have a better ability to control and say whether or not that charity is actually going to produce tangible benefits and not just be used as a vehicle for employment while falsely claiming to champion some noble crusade or another. Also, constitutional amendment to limit government, state, federal, and local, all combined to 15% of GDP. Government spending and government revenue to just 15% of GDP. Again, you take the money out of it, you force the charity into the private sector, it's going to make it much more efficient and much more effective, and we get rid of crusaders basically using government money as a means by which to start a career. This is not likely to happen because not everybody studies economics and the voting population isn't quite as intelligent as you'd like them to be. So what it also boils down to is good parenting. If the public schools aren't going to do it, you got to step in. You have to teach your children independent and critical thinking so that when they come home with a pamphlet with Al Gore's face on it saying you should stop driving your car, you can tell your child how to stand up to the teacher or how to stand up to the school. Teach your children fiscal discipline, saying, look, kid, here's a budget, here's how it works. Simple stuff would have prevented the housing crisis. Just setting up a budget, that would have prevented the housing crisis. Teach the children the real United States history. Yes, for all of our problems, isn't it kind of curious how the United States became so successful? Isn't it amazing how everyone wants to move here still yet? Obviously, we must have done something right. And whereas public schools like to focus on what we did wrong for political purposes, you got to teach the kids, what did the United States do right? And we've done a ton of right things. Teaching the children the Constitution, Heritage Foundation, be more than happy to get you a pocket Constitution. And demand from the schools reading, writing, and arithmetic, and nothing else. It is none of the public schools' business to educate your children about social responsibility, community, or whatever. That is your jurisdiction. You pay them to teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic so that they can go and get a job and be self-employed and not move back at home when they're 40. This would probably inevitably require that some of you must run for school board. And the reason I focus so much, you say, well, why the children? Because that's where it starts. It's easier to get a kid independent, critical thinking when they're 8 or 9 or 10, rather than take a 22-year-old who's been brainwashed since K through college education and get them to actually think critically and intellectually honest, look up facts and statistics and data before getting them to actually abandon their ideology.